The life jacket scam is here, and these new 2026 laws are coming for the gear in your locker. You think your trusty orange vest is safe? Think again. The US Coast Guard has officially retired the type system we've used for decades, and it has been replaced by a complex performance-level mandate that takes effect this year. On January 6, 2025, a final rule changed the game, but the real hammer drops in 2026 as manufacturers and inspectors switch entirely to the UL 12402 harmonized standard. If your label says Type 3 instead of Level 70, you might find yourself failing a boarding or denied by insurance. They claim this is about North American harmonization, but why is a vest that kept you afloat for 10 years suddenly considered a liability? Is this a safety breakthrough or a calculated move to force millions of boaters to buy all new inventory? Regulation of life jackets in North America begins not with modern bureaucracy, but with a crisis on the Mississippi. In 1852, Congress passed the Steamboat Act, the first federal law to demand that passenger vessels carry life preservers. These early devices were crude, canvas sacks stuffed with cork, stenciled with block letters, and a government stamp. But the intent was clear: to prevent another mass drowning like the Orinoco disaster. By the late 19th century, every riverboat and packet steamer from New Orleans to St. Louis carried federally approved gear, and inspectors, often in stovepipe hats and oilskin coats, would check for missing labels or waterlogged cork. For more than a century, the law was simple: have enough life preservers for every soul on board and keep them in good repair. But as boating shifted from commerce to recreation, the rules evolved. The Coast Guard, born from the Revenue Cutter Service and the Life-Saving Service, inherited the job of defining what counted as a serviceable life jacket. By the 1970s, a new taxonomy took hold: the type system. Type 1 for offshore, Type 2 for nearshore, Type 3 for water sports, Type 4 for throwable cushions, and Type 5 for specialty gear. Each came with a bold label. For example, Type 3, USCG approved, adult. The system was as much about language as safety. Every boater, from Maine lobstermen to Arizona wakeboarders, learned to check for those words and that approval number. Archival footage from the 1970s shows racks of orange vests, their foam still springy, the nylon bright and unscarred. The metallic click of a buckle, the stiff snap of a new zipper, the faint chemical tang of fresh foam. Those were the sounds and smells of compliance. Inspectors flipped jackets over, checked for tears, and ran fingers along the seams. If the label was faded or the fabric stiffened to a brittle potato chip crunch, the gear failed. But the rules were clear and the language was plain. This system endured for decades. It linked every recreational boater to a legal lineage stretching back to the paddle wheel era. The Type 1 through V labels became as familiar as the red and green running lights on a bow. Yet beneath the surface, change was coming, a push for harmonization, for technical standards measured not in pounds, but in newtons, for pictograms instead of words. The seeds of the coming overhaul were sown in these early statutes and the quiet, methodical work of inspectors who believed that clarity and serviceability were the true foundation of maritime safety. June 4, 2025, slips in with little fanfare, but at the marina, nothing feels routine. The old rhythm, checking lines and swapping stories, breaks as boaters pause at their lockers and squint at life jackets. The familiar Type 1, Type 2, and Type 3 labels have vanished. In their place, a new icon appears, a stylized figure, a number, and the letters N or PL. The language of safety has changed overnight. A notice from UL Solutions pinned by the fuel dock spells it out. From today, only jackets with performance level icons, Level 50, Level 70, and Level 100, meet Coast Guard approval. The Newton rating, once a technicality, is now front and center. 1 Newton equals about a quarter pound, but for those used to 15 pounds of buoyancy, the conversion is anything but obvious. Level 70 means 70 newtons, roughly 15.5 pounds of lift, but the real puzzle is the icon itself. No more Type 3 USCG approved adult. Now it is a cartoon, a number, and a code. A retired Coast Guard compliance officer, watching the confusion, puts it bluntly: if the label is not clear, you are rolling the dice. He has seen boaters fail inspection for labels that are faded or peeling, and the new rules are stricter still. The label must be legible, intact, and correct, no exceptions. One owner, clutching a vest that has kept him safe for years, stares at the new symbol and shakes his head. So it is legal, but only if the label is perfect. What about the jacket itself? The harmonization effort, meant to simplify, has left many adrift. Stories circulate of failed boardings and insurance agents rejecting faded numbers. The dockmaster posts a cheat sheet. Level 50 for paddlers, level 70 for most boats, level 100 and up for offshore. But uncertainty lingers. The old vests hang nearby, trusted and familiar, but suddenly suspect. The plain English era is gone. The age of icons has arrived. Newton. The word now sits where pounds once ruled, stamped on every new Lifejacket label. Instead of the old Type 3, US Coast Guard approved, adult, there is a number, level 50, level 70, level 100. The numbers are more than just a new language, they are the new law of the water. 1 Newton equals about 0.225 pounds of force. Level 50 means 50 newtons, just over 11 pounds of buoyancy. Level 70 is 70 newtons, about 15.5 pounds, the standard for most boaters, matching the old Type 3. Level 100 climbs above 22 pounds, built for rough water. Level 150 at 33.7 pounds is for the edge of survival, where rescue is a hope, not a plan. The UL 12402-5 standard underpins this shift. Level 50 is a buoyancy aid, designed for strong swimmers in calm water. It will not guarantee you will turn face up if you are unconscious. Level 70 and above must pass a rotation test. A weighted dummy is dropped into the water, and the vest must flip it face up, mouth clear of the water. Level 100 must perform in open water, with bright colors and reflective tape. Level 150 is for the farthest reaches, cold, remote, and unforgiving. Labels have become the gatekeepers. The pictogram, a torso, a number, a Newton rating, replaces words. The approval number, stamped in black, must remain sharp. If the label fades or the tag tears, the jacket is no longer legal, no matter how well it floats. The difference between passing and failing can be a worn buckle or a sun-bleached number. Rumors swirl that every old life jacket will be banned overnight. The truth is slower, but relentless. The final rule, published January 6, 2025, lets old Type 1 through 5 vests stay legal if they are serviceable. But the bar is rising. On June 4, 2025, new approvals begin to use Newtons. By January 5, 2026, a faded label or compressed foam means the jacket is out. The Newton has replaced the pound. The icon has replaced the word. Even a small flaw can end a life jacket story, no matter how much life it has left. A kayak glides through dawn mist, paddle slicing the water in rhythm. Tucked beneath the spray skirt, the paddler wears a level 50 buoyancy aid, 11 pounds of lift, stamped as 50 newtons on a bright, cartoonish label. It is light, flexible, and barely noticed by its owner. But the law draws a sharp line. Level 50 meets the carriage requirement only when worn. Stow it in the hatch and it vanishes from the legal tally. A level 70, on the other hand, counts whether it is on your back or stuffed under a seat. That is the new physics of compliance. The distinction is not academic. UL 124025, the standard behind the new system, spells it out. Level 50 is a buoyancy aid, not a life jacket. It is built for strong swimmers in sheltered water. There is no guarantee it will turn an unconscious paddler face up. Level 70 and above must pass an automatic rotation test. A weighted dummy dropped in the water must be flipped face up within seconds. The engineer who helped design the test describes it as brutal but honest. The dummy does not care about comfort or style, it cares if the mouth clears the surface every time. The rules are unforgiving. During a routine inspection, a Coast Guard officer boards a kayak group on the Potomac. One paddler, confident in her well-worn level 50, is told it does not count unless she is wearing it. Her friend, with a level 70 vest thrown over a dry bag, passes. The difference is a line in the regulation, but the outcome is all that matters. One citation, one warning, one uneasy glance at the fine print. The kayak community buzzes with questions. Does a zipped but unbuckled vest count? What about a level 70 with a faded label? The answers live in the technical appendices and the inspector's discretion. For many, the change feels arbitrary. A vest that kept someone afloat for years now fails because it lacks a face-up guarantee or a pictographic icon. The science is sound, automatic rotation saves lives, but the legal trap is real. A cracked buckle, a sun-bleached number, or a missing Newton rating can turn a morning paddle into a compliance headache. The sensory details linger: the brittle crunch of old foam, the sharp tang of new neoprene, the silence when an inspector shakes his head. The law has shifted from plain English to symbols and newtons, from trust in a familiar vest to trust in a label that must never fade. January 5th, 2026. The date is stamped in the amendment text, but the real test happens at the dock, clipboard in hand. Amendment 11 to Marine Safety. Notice 1874. Spells out the new serviceability benchmarks in language that leaves little room for interpretation or mercy. A life jacket is now unserviceable if the approval number or the performance level icon is faded, scratched, or illegible. Any buckle, strap, or seam showing more than 5 mm of wear or losing more than 10% of its original strength fails. If the foam inside compresses by 15% after a half-hour soak, the jacket is out. The checklist is precise, almost clinical, but the consequences are anything but theoretical. The inspector's form, updated for 2026, reads like an engineer's audit. Label, legible. Buckles, engage smoothly, free of rust. Straps, no excessive stretch. Foam, no signs of waterlogging or spongy collapse. The surveyor, a veteran with salt and pepper hair and a practiced eye, runs a finger over the label. The letters, once bold, are now ghostly under the glare. He checks the seam, tugging gently. A single thread, frayed and pale, peels away. The buckle clicks, but the plastic is hairline cracked, brittle from years of UV exposure. The verdict comes not with drama, but with a pen stroke. Fail. The law's intent is clear: remove any uncertainty about what counts as safe. But in practice, the bar is set so high that even a well-cared-for vest can stumble. The amendment leaves no room for a sailor's judgment or a boater's nostalgia. The label must be perfect, the icon crisp, the foam resilient. Anything less, and the order is simple: cut up and discard. The sensory details pile up: the dry snap of a failing seam, the chemical tang of a new level 100, the musty odor of a Type 2 that has seen too many seasons. The checklist doesn't care about stories or memories. It cares about compliance. For owners, the trap is set by the smallest flaw: a sun-bleached number, a scuffed pictogram, a strap stretched by one too many rescue drills. Each is enough to turn a trusted life jacket into scrap. The inspector's checklist, once a tool for safety, now doubles as a ledger for what must be destroyed. The law has moved from plain English to the language of icons, newtons, and percentages, and the consequences are written in the margins of every inspection form. Scrap orders appear quietly, memos pinned to marina walls, lines in a state bulletin. Utah's Division of Water Resources, in Bulletin 2026-01, lays out the rule: any life jacket failing a serviceability check must be destroyed and photographed as proof. The directive, citing MSN 1874 Amendment 11, effective January 5, 2026, is precise. Approval number and level icon must be clear. Buckles and straps cannot show more than 5 mm of wear. Foam must retain at least 85% of its spring after a half-hour soak. Even a faded label means the jacket is done. No exceptions for nostalgia or careful storage. Compliance is absolute. Enforcement comes through routine patrols and insurance letters. In Salt Lake City, a boat owner opens a notice from her insurer quoting Coast Guard Bulletin 2023-02, any claim for injury will be denied if the personal flotation device's approval label is unreadable or it fails the 5-second buoyancy test. She thinks of her old vest from Lake Powell, orange, sun-bleached, always reliable. Now, a frayed seam and a faded stamp make it uninsurable. The insurer's message is blunt: replace your gear or lose coverage. Premiums rise for anyone who hesitates. The financial hit starts with a failed inspection, $150 for an illegible label, 30 days to buy a replacement, and a disposal fee if the marina handles the scrap. Dockmasters hand out checklists: label, foam, buckles, straps, each a possible trigger for destruction. The familiar must of old Type 2s gives way to the sharp scent of new level 100s, bright and costly. Replacing a locker's worth of jackets can run into the hundreds, with discarded gear bound for the landfill. The technical rigor of the new standards fades against the sound of scissors and the quiet anger of boaters who kept their gear in good faith. A retired teacher stands at her stern, scissors poised over a vest that kept her grandchildren safe. The buckle clicks, the foam floats, but the icon is gone. She cuts. The order is clear: comply or risk everything. July 2026 arrives with a quiet but irreversible shift. Every new life jacket rolling off the line now carries a unique serial number etched beneath the performance level icon. This is the digital product passport, an electronic record that tracks a vest from its first day in the shop to its final cut-up in a marina dumpster. Scan the QR code and up comes a cloud-based log: manufacture date, inspection history, last recorded service check, and the critical serviceability verdict. For regulators, the DPP means instant access to a jacket's life story. For manufacturers, it is a built-in incentive. Each replacement sale is logged, each scrapped vest registered as compliance. The days of quietly swapping a faded label or sneaking a well-worn Type 2 past an inspector are over. Now a failed check triggers an automated scrap order. The DPP does not just track compliance, it enforces the replacement cycle, jacket by jacket, serial by serial. The system promises transparency, but for boaters it is a digital leash, one that quietly turns every minor flaw into a reason to buy new. Utah's Bulletin 2026-01 spells it out in plain language. If a life jacket fails inspection, it must be cut up and discarded, with a photo as proof. No appeals for sentimental value, no exceptions for a vest that still floats. The directive quotes Marine Safety Notice 1874 Amendment 11, effective January 5, 2026, down to the millimeter. Approval number and level icon must be clear. Buckles and straps cannot lose more than 5 mm of material, foam must spring back to at least 85% after a half-hour soak. Even a slightly faded label triggers the scrap order. For every boat owner facing the new regime, 5 steps matter. First, check the label. If the approval number or level icon is faded or peeling, the jacket is done. Second, test every buckle and strap for smooth function and cracks. Third, inspect seams for fraying or loose threads. Fourth, compress the foam. Spongy or slow recovery means failure. Fifth, document the cut-up with a clear photo. The checklist is unforgiving, but following it is the only way to stay legal, insured, and on the water. Today, no Coast Guard decree bans every old life jacket at midnight. The pedantic truth is this: if your faded Type 2's label is unreadable, MSN 1874, Amendment 11, says it is unserviceable. You must scrap it by law. As harmonization marches on, the rules do not break your gear. They quietly erase it, buckle by buckle, label by label. Safety evolves, but so do the traps for those who trust what has always floated them.